Shall we get started?
Yeah, I think we have a good group.
Cool.
And John, before you get started going over the overview, I'm going to put in the chat a link to notes that I'll take from the call today. And then I'll make that and the recording of the call available in the Neon Forecast Tick Slack channel and send it out as a recap to the groups as a resource after, that people can use later.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so I don't really have too much to say except for thank you all for participating. And thank you to the other members of the design team, some of which are on the call, for helping come up with the particulars for the challenge. We know that it's a little weird because we are forecasting the 2019 season and that data has been made public, but that was done for essentially logistical reasons because of the pandemic and also Neon's data latency on the tick products. And so, yeah, this is really your time to ask questions about the design, give your input on what you think we should do in the future. And as Quinn said at the beginning, he can answer questions about interfacing with the server and getting your forecasts there. I'm also participating in the challenge, but I haven't gotten to that step yet. So I'll let him answer those questions. But yeah, like I said, this is your time, so please ask away.
I can sort of start by kind of walking through some of the things. So there's a set of dates when forecasts are due, and I believe that that's clear on the website, correct?
Yes, it should be the last day of each month.
The last day of each month. And so by the last day of each month, what you will do is you will upload your forecast to our server. And there's two ways to do it. The first way is manual, whereby you go to, let's see, there's a website that's listed on our information about the challenges where it's min.io submissions, and you go down and you click here on the little plus button and you add upload file. And that will put it in our system. And what happens is that I forgot how many times a day we have a script that runs and checks the things that get added to the submissions for whether they're valid. And it will move to aquatics, beetles. This one will move to ticks. And you should see your forecast here. If you don't, it's because you've been sent to purgatory. And that's because you didn't pass the standards. And if you're interested in why you didn't pass the standards, I can't guarantee it's the most useful log. So here is a team that, that submitted one. And so the CSV, why is the CSV not meeting the standard? You look for the .log and it will have some information on why. You can also email me. I've been helping folks figure out why. The most common issues that folks have are related to making sure that the column names match exactly what we're looking for, making sure that the date format is the exact format we're looking for with dashes, year, month, day, where you have, and making sure that the naming convention of the file that you submitted is correct. So for example, this one got sent to purgatory because it had brackets around everything. This one probably got sent to purgatory because it doesn't even tell you what theme it is or the date that it was submitted, things like that. So it's really important to follow the naming convention that's described on the website and with the correct columns. The reality is that we're not right now checking the metadata. So do your best. Try your hardest to work with the metadata. And if not, submit what you can. Metadata will be sent to purgatory, but your forecast will not. You can then, the forecasts then will show up on our Shiny server. That takes a few seconds to load. And so you can go into ticks, and here is from the random walk null, which John and I worked together. John and the design team and I kind of got together. 2 different species. See, if you don't have those as your column names right here, it'll yell at you because, like it doesn't know how to process if those aren't the column names. For the different sites. And so this is, and even though I think that it's called plot ID, make sure that you meet the standard, but because these are actual plots, but the analysis is at the scale of a plot. And here's the raw data down here. And then you can see your score. So not very interesting for phenology or for the ticks because there's not multiple ones, but here's phenology where a bunch of teams have been submitting, and you can, this is not a really, because it averages everything together, but you can see these are all the different teams that are contributing to the phenology challenge. And this is the score, which lowest score is best. So, this doesn't mean winning per se, because this is averaging across all time horizons and forecast periods, and they may have only submitted to one. So, but anyway, that gives you an idea that where things are with that. So the key is to get your submission upload. We also give instructions on the website for, let's see, where is it? All right, so participation guidance. Here, there's repositories that you can look into that have, the null models, things like that. Submissions instructions. Here's the names. These are the columns you need to have. So ticks needs to have time, site ID, plot ID, ensemble, meaning that, like if you're producing a forecast that has a lot of different ensemble members, you need to have an ensemble forecast. These are just set to 1 and 0 for now. Jody, there needs to be an underscore here. And then the 2 columns for the targets. And importantly, if you're not producing ensemble forecast, then instead of the ensemble column, and it says this here, you need a column called statistic. And then what it does is you then have mean and standard deviation, as the alternating, doesn't have to be alternating, but you have to have both of those. You have to have both of those in that column so that we know what your standard deviation and mean are for your forecast, so we can score it, because we score based on the distribution of your forecast, not a single point. And then let's see, where is it? Oh, and we give some examples on how to submit a forecast. and it's a little bit of a work in progress, but stay tuned for this. But we're working on some helper packages for you. So we're creating an R package called Neon Forecast that has some helper things that you can use to validate. See, there's nothing there yet, but we're still working on it to validate your forecast. So in this, if you give it your forecast file name, this is a function that this is the validator that's being run behind the scenes. So you can go ahead and test whether your file will pass the system. And you can just straight up grab the R script off of this. You don't have to install the package if you don't want to. We also have ones if you want to download the NOAA weather data and convert it into a data frame for you to use. We have some functions for that. If you want to score your own, we have functions for that. And if you want, this is a function that will submit the forecast for you, through R where you can just run this and it will automatically submit it for you. So there's some resources that we're trying to make available for you. And let's see what else.
Hey, quick question, Quinn.
Yeah.
For the ensemble, if you submit an ensemble CSV, how many ensembles have you been seeing? Is there a recommended number? A recommended number for properly sampling a probability distribution is in the ballpark of thousands. But the reality is we're seeing a lot of the statistic submissions. Okay.
The scoring function doesn't assume normality, but so the more ensemble members, the better, but you need to think about how big your file is.
Yeah, on that subject, it's kind of a pain with the format with the two species with a column, because since they don't have overlapping sites for what goes into the CRPS sample, is it possible to submit individual for each species with the ensemble as columns instead of as one column with everything in it? Sorry if I'm interrupting.
Right now it'll break things.
Okay.
But that's a design feature to consider.
Because that would make submission a lot easier.
Yep. Well, the question is, is it two different challenges? And we can change that if that's feels like that's more appropriate. We just need to, under the hood, be able to detect some of this, the differences between the file. Look for one or the other rather than both. And then becomes two files for the same. Yeah, I don't know. John, do you want to give that a think on whether that makes sense? And maybe ping the group?
Yeah, we can talk about it. On the NetFeed or on the GitHub repo for the null forecast, at the end is how we went about writing that ensemble CSV. So that's also a resource to go and check out that code to see how we did that, because that's what's being scored and visualized right now on the server.
Okay. Maybe it's just a matter of using that and creating a function to convert everything. But
you can also have NA values. You would have a lot of NA values for the second species. And part of this too is that they may not be over. In this case, they're picked to be non-overlapping, but will they always be non-overlapping?
Well, the issue is that some sites have both species and then some are single.
Yeah. But yeah, no, we we would need to, we would have to change the file naming convention as well, because it'll show up as two different files, and we would need to figure out how to make sure the file name was not the same. So there'd be cascading effects of this that we'd have to think out. But that's I mean, this feedback is awesome.
I did have one question, which is if we end up using driver data besides what's provided in the targets, how, and there's probably further instructions, but do you mind doing a quick overview of how we provide that to other people participating in the challenge?
There isn't a formal mechanism. We recommend just posting on Slack.
Okay.
Just saying, hey, you know, found this to be useful. Others might like it.
Thank you.
And the most important thing for everyone to, first of all, you know, huge thanks for being here and, you know, being engaged. You know, this is the beta round. And so, you know, we're working out the kinks. This isn't the big, you know, well-oiled rollout. You know, this is the kind of a the first time something like this has been done across so many different things in ecology, and we're running into issues in all the themes. And you know, the key is feedback and questions and refinement, because you know, this is a research coordination network that's funded to run for, you know, 5 years or more, depending on no cost extensions. And so we envision, and NEON data will only become more mature through time. So you know, we envision this occurring, you know, throughout the you know, new rounds basically every year. And so the iterative process of learning from this is really important. So the other themes have had a lot of really good discussions on the Slack channels, and you know, asked a lot of great questions. People have gotten help debugging things, you know. So I definitely recommend that as a resource, and definitely view this as a refinement of, you know, how to do this. I think is that pretty much similar to what we covered with the other groups, Jody? I'm trying to remember, because those were like a couple months ago.
Yeah, I think that was a lot of it, walk through a lot of it.
So there's weather forecasts for each site that are available with a, you know, under shared drivers on the webpage. Those are NOAA forecasts that run out 35 days in the future. Ensemble weather forecasts. So the important thing when submitting is you shouldn't feel like I mean, include the uncertainty that you think is appropriate. But do not submit something without uncertainty, because that, you know, that will say that you have extreme confidence in your forecast and will be scored subsequently, that if it's slightly off, it'll be scored pretty strongly, you know, as opposed to something that has uncertainty and is even more off than maybe your single point one will score better, because its uncertainty overlaps the data. So, you know, I say that because, like, you know, if you're using weather drivers in your model, well, there's 31 ensemble members from NOAA. So right there, you have a source of uncertainty you could include. That's already kind of provided for you. The other thing to emphasize is that the scoring approach recognizes an observation as a true observation of the world. It was drawn, the process of observing it was, there's uncertainty, but the actual value is a real thing. And so we assume that your forecast has the uncertainty in the data generating process in it. Which basically means that the scoring doesn't say, hey, the observations have uncertainty and the forecast has uncertainty. It says the observations are a thing and then the forecast has uncertainty. And so observation uncertainty is also a way to add uncertainty to your forecast. Cool. Other questions?
So those, you're talking about the NOAA Jeff's forecasts,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. But we didn't grab those for 2019.
Oh, that's right. You're right. Yep. So what do you think?
So I've been working on some code to grab NOAA's that it's NMME, North American Model Ensemble or something. It's a yearly weather forecast that's produced once a month. And they have those archived for 2019. So I'm working on some code to grab that, and I can post those to the Slack.
Are those regularly? Are they still updated?
I don't know.
Okay.
I was only looking for the 2019.
Yeah, because that's some code that we've been looking at trying to write in general for the project. So let me know, because I mean, if you're writing code to do that, then
yeah.
And you're saving it in the format that is the standard kind of net format that we're using across the project, then that we won't have to reinvent the wheel. So let's touch base offline about that.
Okay.
All kinds of models are welcome. The only one that's been done already is what, tomorrow is the same as today. Cool. Other questions?
Quick question. So is there a difference between the sampling between the 2016 and 2018 data and the 2019 data that we're forecasting for the ticks? It had looked to because I think the training data was sampled monthly and the forecast data is weekly. The forecasts are weekly.
There shouldn't be a difference in the sampling. Okay. The only difference between pre-2019 and post is sort of how they report one of the life stages, but we're not forecasting the larva. So we've aggregated the counts to weekly for each plot.
Well, maybe that is so we provide a targets file that is the time series of historical data that will be it'll grow as the forecasting challenge moves through the 2019, just like data accumulates in real time. And so the targets file is how NEON data is processed to the target so that you know what it's ultimately being compared to. So you can build your model off the target data. You're also welcome to build your model off of NEON data directly. Or you just can't build it off of like super secret private sources that that no one would have access to. But if you do, just realize that yes, there could be you may process it differently if you're trying to build a data set from NEON, and that may ultimately mean that it's not kind of in this, it's not going to produce a target in quite the same way. So, that's why we provide the script on GitHub that goes from the neon data to the target, so you know how that's done. And we provide the historical targets for you. These are all good questions. Well, I'm excited. It's been a lot of fun watching the different themes come in, and working through the kinks in the system.
I know on the previous calls, we had asked if people were willing to share what models they were thinking of. And since we have time, if people don't mind sharing, I think it would be interesting to hear what people are thinking for the challenge.
That sounds great.
I know one thing my group has been talking about is how best to do multi-plot models to kind of leverage information within a site or even across sites. We haven't, I don't have a lot more information to provide about our model structure other than that at this time, but by March 30th, we will have a historical fit to data.
Yeah, I've also been thinking about across site variability and across species variability and how to incorporate that hierarchy. What we're working on is basically demographic models trying to estimate survival across species or sites or latitude. And then using, trying to use growing degree days in our observation model. And if that converges, we'll use it.
So as context for Mary's description is that I'm teaching a class at Virginia Tech, a graduate class, and there's a group for each theme, and Mary and Abby, who are on this call, are part of a TIC team. So there's classes being taught at BU and Berkeley this semester that are submitting forecast challenge. Is anyone from one of those universities?
The BU class did not have anyone for the TIC challenge. I think they're all doing phonology.
Does anyone else want to share how they're thinking about approaching this?
Sorry? Not swiftly, because on my second year, people has to do it.
I guess we're having folks join. I assume they'll just watch the video. All right, well, we don't have to take up the full hour if
Yeah, and I'm sure we'll get more questions as the deadline approaches. I mean, we're a week today. So yeah, use the Slack, please. I know a lot of us are active on there, or you can email us directly.
And for those people that did join just recently, I'll make the recording available on the Slack channel, and so you can get caught up that way. But unless there's other questions, I think we've pretty much covered it. All right.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, everybody. Let us know if you have questions, and looking forward to seeing your submissions go into the right buckets and show up on the website.
All right. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, all.
Thank you.